Would you say it's almost like working on the business as opposed to working in the business? Is that 60% of the time?
Yes.
Day in the life of Gary Scott.
I don't like too much uniformity. I don't like it to be that predictable, but I think you have to have some kind of framework. So by default, I'm a morning person, and I live in a house where not everyone is a morning person, so that has its own sort of dynamic.
Does it mean you go to bed earlier?
It does.
Okay.
It does. But I'm also a YouTube fiend, so and I love music, so going to bed early doesn't necessarily mean sleeping early, but I believe in quality of sleep, and I think exercise helps, because if your body is relaxed from exercise and tired and needs to rejuvenate, quality of sleep comes with that. But because I'm the morning person, I'm out on the road early. So 5 o'clock, 5:30, I'm going for a run 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And if I'm not running, what I've taken up in the last 6 months is something like yoga, sort of a stretching routine, a breathing routine, a mindfulness routine, which is great, and also as we get older helps prevent injuries. And then it's then it's breakfast as the sun's rising, check in with the kids. I may be dropping off kids at school, usually not, maybe one of the kids, not all of the kids, but checking in around the breakfast table, how's everyone doing, preparing for the day. Almost certainly, the kids are slow to get out of bed, but I've probably cleared 4 or 5 emails before I even
do you do that on your mobile device, or do you do it on a desktop device?
Both.
On both, okay.
Both, yeah, but that time of morning probably on the mobile device. Okay. And setting other people up for their days as well. And remembering that we're part of a global organization, at least as a brand. Not a big time difference to Dubai, but there's always something to be acting on.
So South Africa works through Dubai?
Works through a regional office in Dubai.
Not directly to Korea?
No,
okay.
No, thankfully. Otherwise it would be a 24-hour job.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it's off to the office. So it's not off to the office or a dealership or to our group head office, typically. Those would be my typical destinations. Our dealer business runs, as I said earlier, there's a vertically integrated business. The rest of our network, about 40 dealers, are independent. Dealing with independent franchisees is wonderful. They're entrepreneurs, they have a lens on their community, they have ideas of their own. We co-create, so it's quite a good energy space, and very different to the importer side of the business. So I get to play with both of those, wear both hats. That can be quite dynamic. But generally, probably 3.5 days out of a 5-day week, my office day starts in the office. And it doesn't start at 8 o'clock. I've already probably got an hour and a half's work done by the time I get in, but I'm getting in 8:30 to 9. I'm avoiding traffic. I'm letting people's days in the office start. They can breathe before I come in. And I'd like to come in high energy and just greet everyone on the way in, charge off to my office, and the day starts. I think we can be led by our diaries. We can be led by email. There's a lot of noise on email. We've got to kind of sit back. I like to do that over my first cup of coffee. What do I want to achieve today? What are the top 5 priorities?
So you've got quite a loosely structured kind of, you sit down and you map out, you write it down.
I find writing I've gravitated towards the iPad, so it's now digital writing.
Okay.
But the stroke, the kinetics of just moving your hand and the brain, I think it works. The PA is never far away. She's batting stuff in and out of the diary. She would have arranged this session today, for example. And then it's open door. So if I close the door, I'm in a mindful space. I'm thinking about something deep, complex, long-term.
And the team respect that.
And the team, it's like a body language thing. They understand what that means.
Okay.
But by default, 70% of the day, the door is open. Communication gravitates towards me, or we catch it in the passage, or we catch it on a dealer visit. It's fairly organic in that sense. You're getting a lot of feedback, and you're just assessing the whole time. There's always fires to be put out. You can only have so much structure. The fires can be fun. You don't want to be dealing with 50 fires a day. That would be a signal of something else. But most of the time is about the longer term objectives, the levers. What are the big levers we're pulling? And so probably from a people interaction perspective, we have a flat structure. We're not a massive organization at importer level. I can be dealing with the head of distribution. I can be dealing with tea lady. But mostly it's with my exco. So we have specific one-on-one time, but then we have very natural corridor meetings, 5-minute check-ins, open door, drift in. I do the same. I wander around the office and I drift in, check in, how's your day going? And I think part of that is just about creating a culture where everyone feels approachable, we understand the humanity in each other. When we have tough conversations, we can do it because we actually trust each other, and we understand that, you know, I have a vested interest in you as a person. You're not just a transaction or an employee. So I think we have a good vibe, really. It's
so during the course of your day, is it mostly structured via meetings, mostly face-to-face people time?
So, you know, it's funny, I think we all came out of COVID with this 8-hour day and we managed to do 16 meetings and we're so productive, but you lose so much magic, you lose that human touch. And so, you know, what I try to do, and this is sort of my KPI for my PA, is 40% schedule time, 60%, let's call it slack. In that slack, I'm dealing with admin, but I'm also just trying to sit back, helicopter view, what I need to really put some energy and brain time into. Who do I need to co-opt into this? How do we create alignment? What's not working? If I have that 60% time, I feel a lot more effective. It's not always the case, and you'll also go through busy seasons and quiet seasons, and I think we've got to manage that, and we've got to fill the time ourselves. If you fill the time yourself, then you're in charge of that narrative. If you're sitting back, people will fill your diary. As the head of an organization, you're always in demand. Someone's always trying to sell you something, solve a problem you don't have, etc., etc.
Exactly. I try and get this through to the executive team here at AutoTrader as well, and that is what I call, I can't say, I can't remember where I heard the term, but I can't say I came up with it, what I call cerebral time. You need thinking time. You can't just be doing.
Yeah.
And that's that 60% you're talking about. It's just,
absolutely,
you've just got to take a step back, and would you say it's almost like working on the business as opposed to working in the business? Is that 60% of the time?
It's true, and you know, because I also sit on the Motors Exco, a lot of that work is almost built in. You know, so you're almost having to operate at a different level, because now you're dealing with a problem that doesn't just affect your business, it affects the group, and whether that's organizational or strategic or whatever, you're going to spend some time in that space, and you're going to be dealing with some people who live in that space all the time. And so they pull you into that space, which is wonderful. I like both. I like the operations, and I like the more strategic stuff as well.
Knowing you for a while now, you come across and you demonstrate as being a very grounded leader. You want to be part of the people. You know your role as a leader, but you still want to be part of the people.
Yeah.
What are some of the tips or learnings you can give either young leaders or even seasoned leaders that kind of are looking for a fresh way of thinking about leadership?
I mean, I think it's going to sound a little bit like a bumper sticker, but the reality is, and you will learn this the hard way or you'll learn this the easy way, is that you cannot be a better version of somebody you admire than they are. You can't. You can only recognize the virtues you see in that person, adapt them in, you know, try and absorb them into your makeup. But ultimately, the only way people are going to accept being led by you is if they believe the you that you present is the you that you are. So
authenticity.
It's about authenticity. It's as simple as that. If you pretend to be somebody else because, you know, there's a stereotype around how an auto leader needs to behave, you know, their mannerisms, their way of work, how they attack things. If you feel that that's the only way, either you will never gravitate or just say, well, that's clearly not for me, I can never be that person, which is tragic, or you'll put a hell of a lot of energy into being somebody you're not, and you will fail. You'll never be great, and it will be energy sapping. And you know, if your job doesn't energize you, that's an absolute red flag. Yeah, you should move on. So I think that's the biggest thing, is understand who you are and be yourself.
Just be authentic.
And then the second thing is, you know, you may have this thing, and I think a lot of younger leaders suffer from it. It's more pronounced in South Africa because, firstly, we've got this generational thing, a lot of young people coming through, and there may be, I've seen it a few times, maybe it's YouTube, maybe it's television, maybe it's, you know, American culture, that instant gratification.
I was about to say instant success. Yes.
Exactly. There's no such, that's not authentic, there's no substance behind that. I mean, your 18-year-old entrepreneur is an outlier, right? What we need to be seeing is that people understand what they need to develop in to grow and to add value. What we need to be seeing is that people trust their leader or their mentor to give them honest feedback and to help them along that journey. And we need to understand that we need to check in with ourselves. Is it something that I really want? It's not the be-all and end-all. For me, this job still is not the be-all and end-all. It's, this is lovely, what's next? And sideways, down, forwards, upwards, it's not about that. It's about feeling at home. It's that inclusivity. It's, I can see who I am.
You said it earlier on, the constant need for growth.
Yes.
That's what really seems to fuel you, is that constant need for growth.
And that's what I was going to say is, in the old days, perhaps it was, I've arrived, and I've seen this with some of our younger leaders. You arrived, you're now the dealer principal, you are king of the castle. As soon as you have that mindset, you have lost.
You're in trouble, yeah.
You're in deep trouble, because you have to continuously improve, you have to be learning all the time. You will just become redundant over time if you're not learning. So you've always got to say, somebody knows more than me, I've got lots to learn. It's a responsibility as a leader to continue learning. How do you continue to teach if you don't continue to learn? You can't.
You can't, exactly.
Search AutoTrader.